Pasadena's, which I have to get over there from the back end of the screen,
Okay.
cars and everything. So I really
We'll
should
make
try to
it
be out
quick.
here by 8:15. Because how long does it take you to get?
A half hour. Let's get a minute.
Okay. How are we doing?
We'll just walk. Yeah, we're fine. We're there ready and we can do that.
Great.
What's your best answer? This way or around the front?
Welcome to UCLA. I'm Andrew. I'm one of the three guys who, sorry?
Andrew was on mission, yes.
Hey. I hope you're going to tell me what mission you're on. As I said, welcome. Thanks for coming and paying for the parking. Apparently the $5 that you pay goes towards a bold new plan we hear for solving the parking problem here at UCLA. I have some literature here, and it says that they're building a new parking lot in Pomona. And I guess you drive there, and UCLA flies you to LAX, and then you pay $250, you're shuttled here for another $250. It's apparently a stress-free 3-hour commute from Beverly Hills. Anyways, so welcome. We're glad that you could be with us tonight. I'd like to first introduce my two partners in crime. First is Armand Garbidian, who I think is somewhere up there. He's the man responsible for Toy Maker the movie.
Well, I'm going to make this really short. Thank you for being here. And, it's an important day for me personally because I just picked up my diploma. And just to give you an idea how long it took me to do that, when I started film school, I had a full head of hair. That's pretty much it.
Next person is Mr. Robert Manganiello, who's responsible for listening carefully. Tell him it's
I always yield to my better half, which is Taraline. She always seems to say things in a much more eloquent way than I do. So I'd like to have her say a few words. But we reverse because she doesn't need a microphone. And you'll see why.
Sorry. Okay, can you hear him? Okay, good. I would like to thank every one of you for coming here on this special evening to share with the filmmakers here. This is really a very exciting time for the deaf community. Well, really, I have to say, a little bitter and a little sweet feeling right now for us. There's a movie Columbia is doing called, produced by Penny Marshall, called Calendar Girl. It's being done at the Columbia Studios. And they have a deaf character, a great role in this movie, but they picked a hearing actor to play a deaf character in the movie. So, the sweet part is that I am very proud to be here, standing here before you, on behalf of the deaf community, to tell you all that the film Listen Carefully, which Bob made, is an example, not just for an ethical decision, ethically but also creatively, of how to play with sign language and use pictures as a symbol to communicate the idea and the feelings, and I guess that's what film's about in the first place. Anyway, I would like to thank you all again for coming here this evening, and please enjoy yourselves. Thank you.
I wanted just to say that we're really proud of Bob. He just got into the Sundance Directors Workshop in June. Just want to give a few thank yous before I introduce Mr. Stone. Try to be brief in the spirit of King Henry VIII was known to say to several of his nervous wives, "Don't worry, I won't keep you long." First and foremost, Mr. Otto Nemitz, I haven't seen you. Are you here tonight? Mr. Nemitz? Emmets basically is, Auto Emmets is a camera house in Hollywood. They were instrumental in helping the three of us make our films. I wanted to thank him personally. I took out his cameras 4 times and returned them without a scratch. Talk about faith. We have several other sponsors tonight who are Mark Allen from Title House. Hey, Mark. Thanks for the titles. And Mr. I want to say Mike. There you are, from Coffee Master. Thanks a lot, Mike. Programs are great. And Mr. Frank Smith from Kodak. Is he here? Well, the ultimate question, I'm sure some of you are asking, is how do we nail Oliver Stone? Well, the truth is, we didn't finagle him. One doesn't finagle Oliver Stone. One approaches Oliver Stone. What can I tell you? He's part of what we call here the Holy Trinity of American cinema. There were Martin Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola, graduate of this school, I have to say. And as you know, he's a pretty controversial man, but I think we admire him. I think we admire his chutzpah. We admire the fact that he's able to put himself on the line. He has the nerve to experiment with new techniques, film after film, not knowing sometimes whether things are going to work. I think that takes a lot of courage, especially in commercial filmmaking world, where you have a lot of people behind you who are hoping that you're going to come out with a product. That's pretty much what we do here at film school as well, but we're responsible for what we do, so I think that's pretty courageous in doing that in the real world. But I think most importantly, 3 of us admire the fact that he's able to do films that entertain an audience and at the same time have some kind of social message. His issues are very much dealing with the 60s. I think that we're concerned about issues that we grew up with, which all to do with youth risk. We're hoping to turn this into an evening tonight at the Covenant House in a few weeks. We're concerned about kids out in the streets who don't have fathers, don't have families, and finding a way through film to talk about issues affecting kids and maybe reach out to kids and inspire them to go into filmmaking, much in the way that he inspired us to become filmmakers, and so on. The actual, more specific reason that we thought of asking him was because if you've seen The Doors and that scene at UCLA Film School, that he actually played the professor in that scene. So when we were kicking around the idea of approaching him, and we thought, finally it was time for him to live out this fantasy to the fullest. Come here and be Professor Stone. So without further ado, I'd like to have him come down, and we'd like him to know that many of us at school consider him a filmmaker who's taught us by proxy. I mean, we go to see his films and we learn just by being there. So we wanted to give him something in thanks to let him know that he's an honorary professor at our book.
about my own movies that I did in the film school. I felt alternately proud and alternately ashamed of them. I went through paroxysms of despair and greatness. And, I would veer between one mood and the other mood. We'd finish the movie under incredible circumstances against long odds. We were working at the very beginning in 16 millimeter, black and white, 1 minute film, and a 2 minute film. And I would work my way up to my first 10-minute film, which was a single track sync. And it was just a mess. But it was really the best film I ever made in film school because I really I did everything I had, all my passion into it. And it's the one that has survived through 30 years almost. It's called Last Year in Vietnam, and was frequently requested to show in Europe and festivals. And it's amazing that sometimes when you forget about all the techniques that you have and you just do something with your heart about a subject you care about, it somehow gets across no matter how crude it be. And in effect, I used a lot of these same techniques in JFK, where, as Andrew said, it was just, we took chances. And I think that we learned to take chances at NYU. We were encouraged to make mistakes and not to be slick, not to be perfect, to explore. I moved from the 10-minute 16 millimeter, which I did partly in color and partly in black and white, like JFK actually. I moved on into slicker regions in my second and third year. I did two longer shorts. One was 20 minutes long, called Michael and Marie, and the other one was 25 minutes long. It was called Last Year in Vietnam. Reverse that. I mean, different titles, different. Michael and Marie and Last Year in Vietnam, and Madman of Martinique. That was it. The Madman of Martinique, which I threw my father in the subway and had him killed. I put myself in the film with my friends, and they were much more complicated. I mixed separate tracks, and I did my own hot splicing, which was great. And sometimes my own camera work. And the films were much better produced, more technical, but they did not have the soul and the heart of that first 10-minute film. And Scorsese, who inspired many of us in that class, would say that to me. He said, that was your film. That showed me, when I saw that film at 10 minutes long, he said, I knew you were a filmmaker, which was as high a compliment as you could have. It's like being in the Rangers. But, of course, I hope you know that I'm just going on like this, but Andrew did ask me to say a few words about what my college experience was, because obviously comparisons can be made. When I got out of film school, it was really difficult, very difficult, an ugly climate in the early 70s. I remember it as basically one of failure, because all the talented students in the class, there was a core group of, I'd say, 10 to 15 of them, had talent, either as filmmakers or editors, or very few scriptwriters for some reason, very few people interested really in scriptwriting at that point in time. But most of them met with failure. There was just not much going on in terms of the commercial business in Los Angeles. It was all fairly few films. I remember the patents were getting made, the papillons, the expensive writes a good script, who does a short métrage, and you get them. I think that yes, it's both good and bad at the same time. I think that you can be helped along very much more. Your percentages are better. On the other hand, I think that sometimes people are moved along in the process a bit like Frank produced Chickens, and I don't know that sometimes that you are getting the full benefit sometimes of rejection and failure. Our teachers too, they build character, and sometimes I do meet a lot of filmmakers who are young, who really are very technically superb and skilled, but I don't find that they really have a life experience to deal with. They know the other movies, they know who did what that shot does, and they're able to point to a screenplay. But that's not life. I hope we don't lose that. I hope that each of you has a life, each of you has a family, each of you has a different set of problems, different tragedies and comedies in your life. I hope that you look into them deeply, pay attention to the source material, the problem of life, and once you've located that pain and that anguish and that joy, then you use film as a paintbrush, as an instrument. But don't make the film your only life experience. I've seen all three films, and I must say that I won't say which one I prefer because they're all good and they're all different, and it only points to the versatility of the school. And I salute you, all three filmmakers, and the rest of you who are coming up and making films. And I wish you success in your path. Thank you.
Hi again. I'm fine, Debbie, nice to see you. Remember me out before? Hi, nice to meet you.
Oh, now? Yeah.
Did it survive the... That camera survived.
Did you guys stay up late? I couldn't sleep when I got there until late. My eyes, I felt so tired when I was there talking to you on the phone. I lay down. My thoughts keep me awake. And then I woke up at 5 because I heard this clanging outside. They were unloading those bakery trucks right under my window. At Ralph's. I had to put a pillow over my bed. I'm afraid to have your phone. Well, you can come in. I know. I know. I
Oh, really?
Yeah. First of my little things like this.
Did you see nice pretty?
Commit? Did you say? Commit? Sounds like German.
You had no obstacles in its way. You had some That's the secret.
No.
Okay. There's one thing down here.
Stand in the light here.
Well, she's going to ask us. Well, we are German, so you have to excuse our accent. We can't express ourselves the way we like to. I could have bet $100.
Don't wonder that.
No,
He
but
went there.
I don't.
Oh, you didn't really
say
say
no.
I bet maybe. No, so that is, I like the cable TV station versus
Film. That's something.
It's a nice thing because
If you could speak up and do a little sound check, you know, or you can step closer to the camera if you want, and then just sort of, you don't have to shout or anything.
Scream, it's called.
No.
So dark.
First, we'll talk about the air conditioning.
she's always prepared with
You can start talking.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. So, have you like seen it? What do you guys think about Well, I actually kind of like all fields, but every single one had good aspects in one way or another. One was maybe more emotional, one was more one was a little bit more commercial, and I thought all of them had interesting elements. Every single film had something to say. And are you a film student? No. And I actually really like the first one too. Not from the script in all areas, but I thought it really talked about interesting aspects that maybe the society is going to face in the future, like technology, terrorism, and things that could happen potentially with technology that think maybe the script was evacuated in all areas, but if somebody really took a closer look at it again, I think it probably had a lot of interesting scenes. Because I like the character of the scientist, and I also like the idea of this guy coming in contact with him, and he was maybe misunderstood. Yeah, and he was misunderstood by his parents, and so this man was interesting to him because they were both connected on the level of technology. I thought that was very interesting. And of course, a lot of the things were very political also, which I didn't like very much. And like the ending of the family all coming together and everything was fine.
Nice bright picture.
Yeah, right. But good effort. Yeah, I thought it was a very good effort. And if somebody put a little bit more thought in it, directed it in the right direction, I think it definitely would be potential.
Trace, can you step back just like half a step? Yeah, so you're more like.
Okay, so what about the second one?
As she said, they all have potential, but I always project
Louder.
louder. They all had potential. It had very funny elements in there. What I didn't like in the first two films was the emotional situation, that they would bring up so much anger and push on emotions, and that's something that really, that turns me away from it, because I tend to get really bored and almost, not really aggravated, but it feels like you can tell what people are coming from, so that somehow, you know, everybody has permission to express themselves the way they have to. It's just, in a lot of situations, it just didn't connect with me. It didn't resonate with me at all. I could not follow. I could follow the concept, but it didn't touch me.
Emotionally, yeah, it didn't really ring true, right? And a lot of times for me, I find it, I don't know if you guys know, scenes that, oh, louder, okay. That it's subtler, and if things aren't indicated, and if they aren't spelled out and spoken for you, like, I felt like this when you did this, you know what I mean? If it's, you know what I mean? Then it's a lot more attractive and a lot more powerful.
That was the same thing with the first one, that there were a lot of lines that could be used, or the concept could be used in a different way, but the way they used it in this one was they relied on technology and all these technical effects, and they have these obvious hints in there. I mean, even the lines with these actors throwing the lines, plus the technology helped to give, to point out that hint even more. So it was understandable 1,000%, or just 10%. And it was so obvious. If you see the scene, you understand everything, and it's very boring.
But at the same time, I thought the first movie depicted an atmosphere that was kind of very interesting. And so I think they were very successful in depicting this weird world that was maybe out there somewhere, you know, with all these little details and stuff like that. Maybe it was a little too much, but I thought it really brought me there. I felt like I was there experiencing this strange thing around me. And I think that was very good.
I think all three directors really have a lot to be very proud of. Okay, now we'll talk about the third one. So this is right? Okay, your favorite.
You can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was so subtle, and it was so sensitive, and so sensitive. And I love films that play with symbols. And sometimes you didn't even, you would take, it was a story told in a very, very artistic way. And it almost felt sometimes when the train was passing by was almost like a painter, the canvas, and the colors of the painter started to run and dissolve. It was stunningly done. Very much amazing. And you really could tell it was coming, as Oliver Stone said in the beginning, bring life into your movie rather than having the movie become. And that was expressed very much.
part was very visual, and so there was almost no words, so it was the opposite of some other things. And so a lot of it was like a dream stage, and I kind of like that idea about it too. So you could like make up your own world, most of the pictures, that were beautifully acted. I just so glad. Thanks a lot for talking with us. Thank you. Good night. Bye. Thanks. So. Oh, yeah,
Thank you.
Another UCLA prime time brought to you by Filmworks. I'm watching Filmworks, you're watching Filmworks, and they'll be watching Filmworks. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with our next interview. Huh?
Where are we? Here?
Hit that mark.
Rico!
Yo, what's up?
How you doing, man?
Dylan, yeah, if you could, just a little bit like that.
Robert. You want to come first, Robert?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
All right.
Just ask him a few questions.
Okay,
I'm
so
recording.
Dylan, what's your real name?
Randall Keefe.
Randall.
All right.
Well, I'm Tracy
So you saw
and
the
welcome to Filmworks. Have you heard about us? The Cable Actor Show. We are screening student films. Yeah? So that's why we wanted to ask you. Yeah, you did one. We saw you. Let's talk louder.
Oh,
Okay. So how was it like working on the film? What did you think? Fun?
it was a very learning experience. It was my first leading role that I went on stage with.
You were great. Oh, you've only done the stage?
I'd only done stage, except I'd done some small roles in films. This is the first character that I had to carry through a whole film. So I learned a lot. It was an incredible learning experience for everyone.
How was it like working with what was it like working with Andrew?
Andrew is a very...
What kind of a director is
He has a
we
very,
want to know.
Andrew has a very sharp and vivid vision. And he...
Too vivid? Or
well,
do you have room to create?
you have room to create within his vision. He's there for for the film he wants to make. He sticks by that, bar none. You have to admire it. That's what he sticks by. He does a really good job.
And beautiful location you got to see that, right?
He should be a producer, this guy. He's going to be a producer director because he can get things done that are amazing. I mean, he had everybody, the whole town was cooperative.
What do you think, man?
It was a great town, San Luis Obispo.
Oh, I thought it was Morro Bay.
Well, they're attached to San Luis Obispo. And he had the whole town going over backwards. So that's... Eileen, she's a great actress. So she's easy to be in the scene with. She's present.
And so what are you doing now?
I'm doing a film called Transfers for Paramount Home Video
Great.
with Tim Thomerson and Andy Robinson, who was the bad guy in Dirty Water. And so he's a lot of fun.
Okay, so we'll look for Keith. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah.
Maybe it's you. But you guys are the stars. Did you get to talk to him?
Not yet. We're going now.
Are we going?
Yes. Take a
Hi.
beat. Welcome to Filmworks.
Okay. What?
Take a
Welcome
beat.
to Filmworks.
Okay. Welcome to Filmworks. I'm standing here with Robert Manganelli, the director of the wonderful film that we just saw, which was called Listen Carefully. It was brilliant. It was riveting. It was so touching. Tell me a little bit about the response the film's been getting so far.
Well, we're screening. We've got Tokyo on Sunday. We'll be screening Port Harriet in Chicago, which is the first place in Chicago. We're in the city golden. So the film, oddly enough, is some people actually like this.
Of course. How could you not? Really active director. I wanted to ask you, so it's been screened at other festivals, and what are you excited about? What do you want to do?
Well, I wrote a feature, and we're going to hopefully go into production in the fall. It's actually being developed at Sunday June.
Look forward to your next one.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for being on Filmworks.
Hi, welcome to Filmworks. Tonight we're going to be seeing the first part of Armando's film, which was shot while you were still a student at Well, hello. Welcome to Filmworks. I'm speaking with Armand Garabedian. Right. He's the director of the film that was called... Oops, wait. Do it again. Hi,
welcome to Filmworks. I'm Tracy Freeman. I'm here at UCLA speaking with Armand Garabedian. He's the director of Toymaker and The Minuteman, which is a wonderful film we just saw. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks.
Director.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Sure. So you had some great sets there, some great scenery. Tell us how you accomplished all that. I mean, it was fabulous, phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. The sets
Well,
were, the sets were built here on sound stages, very much like this one, identical to this one, actually. And the sets were designed by Chuck Connor and built mostly by him and whoever we could get. And we had carpenters and people who volunteered there to help build the set, including, I pitched in a little bit of labor myself, and, we made the whole set pretty much.
So it's like a teamwork.
Yeah,
Definitely.
very much so, yeah. And a lot of pre-planning building the main set. And that's, and then it took us about 3 weeks to build it and a week to shoot. So it was, time-consuming.
I mean, were those real lasers?
Yeah, those were
Really?
real lasers.
Oh.
Yeah, we had a laser artist.
Did anybody get hurt?
No. Those lasers don't hurt unless they catch you in the eye. Yeah, you have to be very careful working on it. That was a 5-watt laser with some laser temperature, very powerful. We had to smoke up those balloons to get the beams, and it's really hard to work. Those conditions, people get impatient and agitated when they can't breathe clean air.
Wonder why.
Yeah.
Complainers, right?
Yeah, nag.
Yeah, and I also noticed that you filmed in a car lot.
Yeah, it was an auto wrecking yard.
To guide.
Yeah.
So how did that come about?
Well, I approached a gentleman who owned the lot, and I told him about the project, and he was, interested. He said, "Be glad to help out in any way I can." And I said, "Let me shoot it for a couple of days."
You just had to ask, right?
I just did.
And if you don't ask, the answer's
Yeah.
always no, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I had to go to a lot of auto yards. There a lot of them want a lot of money. Amazingly enough, they have agents.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's weird. One guy wanted $5 grand a day. And I said, okay, I'll call you next week. So, I found one who was very cooperative, and we went in and we didn't break anything.
Everything was already broken, though.
So
what kind of response has the film gotten?
Favorable. I haven't really shown it to too many people, but whoever has seen it has been, told me they liked it. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but they said they liked it.
How long did it take to shoot it?
To shoot the whole thing, or to finish, start to finish?
Well, the shooting time?
The shooting time was about 15 days. Photography, 5 days. 5 days for pickups, and it took me about 10 months from start to finish. Yeah.
Editing?
Yeah.
The editing was excellent too.
Oh, thank you. Well, Tom Peterson did the editing, and I did some additional editing, the sound effects, everything like that. But the editing itself is done by Tom Peterson, dear friend of mine.
Hi, Tom. Well, Armand, it's been a pleasure.
And
Pleasure talking with you. And the
Jeff
cinematographer,
Crum.
Jeff Crum.
I
Thank you,
didn't
Jeff.
want to mention Jeff. Thank you.
We'll be looking for you, and
Well, thank
the
you.
next one, we'll want to put it on Filmworks.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thanks for joining us on Filmworks.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Okay.
All right, take 999. Hi, welcome to Film.
Welcome to FilmWorks.
Hi, I'm Elrico Richardson.
And I'm Eric James.
And tonight we're introducing a brand new spanking format
We had to get on.
of entertainment.
And if you like our show, you like our format, and you want to submit something, send us your work. We'll be glad to see it. And we got another movie to make later.
Stay tuned.
Peace.
Peace. We're out of here.
Hi everybody, welcome to FilmWorks. I'm Tracy Freeman and I'm standing here with Andrew Bacalar. He's a filmmaker whose film we're going to be seeing tonight called Souvenirs. What I wanted to ask you was, how do you feel that your film deals with humanism and hope?
It's a story about people who are confronted with a set of circumstances, specifically the main character who's a gal in her late 30s. And when she comes up against these problems, she can either run away from her problems or she can stay and deal with her problems and handle them. Deal with the people in her life who she's kind of left behind and start to have a career. I think that is a message of hope about how family members can get beyond their problems rather than running away from them.
Just for everybody to know what day today is when we're filming this. It's May 3rd, right? 1992. We're in Venice Beach, California, right over here. We have the National Guard standing. They're guarding the beach, making sure that nobody goes there. And how would you relate your main character Dylan to the problems that the society faces these days to youth at risk?
Well, Dylan is a kid who lives in a one-parent family. His father took off for what reasons we don't quite know. His mother's kind of a little abusive, physically, verbally. And I think like many kids, regardless of race, he's grown up in a family where there's been very little emotional support. These children tend to be very distrustful of adults or people who say that they care because, you know, they're here for 2 days, like Auntie Jay is, and then she's gone tomorrow. And the question that he, in a sense, puts to her is, if you care about me, put your money on the table and stay in my life rather than flying off, because I don't want your 2-day philosophy, your 2-day feel-good message. And so I think this is the way a lot of kids feel, whether they live in South Central LA, whether they live in Morro Bay, whether they live in Boston, where I'm from, or Detroit, or wherever, in cities and small towns. There's no substitute for being there, for being involved with somebody and involved in their life.
So now let's watch your film, Souvenirs by Andrew Bacalar.
Traveling down this highway, I've been here before. I've always liked living my life, not knowing what's in store for me. Now I'm riding on the crest of a dream. I know I'm getting closer, but I'm somewhere in between. And the truth lies waiting just up ahead. And I'm 1 mile shy of the answers to the questions that fill my head. I'm a little bit wild and restless. I like to run with the wind, but no matter where it takes me, it blows me right back to you again. I'm a little bit wild and restless. I told you that from the start. So what do you do with a girl with a runaway heart?
Dear Jazz, I regret to be the bearer of bad news, but your brother passed away this week. I'm sorry. He tried to reach you a month ago when he got sick, but they said you were on the road again. Anyway, the box with this letter contains some personal things George wanted Dylan to have. Don't ask me why, but he wanted you to bring them to your nephew on his birthday. He knew you might not feel right about going back to Morro Bay, but he asked that you make the trip just the same, for Dylan's sake. You should see the kid, Jazz, all grown up, still like you in some ways. Even George said so after Dylan went back east to visit him. Well, fog still rolls in around the rock, and I'm still sculpting. Regards to you and your P.O. box. Gus.
Hello, Gloria. George might have mentioned I'd be coming. Look, my brother asked me to deliver this to your son on his birthday, and being his aunt, I'll take it. I was told to hand deliver it. He left earlier. Well, then let's strike a deal. I go upstairs, put it on his desk with a note. Well? Did he leave here? Wearing a Stetson?
Why, you selling hats now, too? Oh, wait, no, don't tell me. You wanted to take him swimming.
That's me. Pushing 40 and still kicking.
You go to my mother's or something?
Yeah. Got the royal treatment. So, what's it gonna be? You gonna get in this express?
What are you doing here?
Looking for you. I heard about your father. He asked me to give you something. See you.
Some other time.
Dylan? I bet you haven't changed.
Look me up if you come back through.
Dylan, wait! Come on. I want to hear what you're up to.
After 6 years?
That gives us a lot to talk about.
We could have done that at Dad's funeral if you had shown up.
Word didn't reach me. I was traveling for my leather business.
Great. I'm traveling too.
Just give me an hour, would you?
Gus tells me you rent a place down in San Diego for the winter. Travel around the rest of the year selling your wares.
Those wares have gotten me a down payment on the house.
Settling down with someone?
No. Not ready for that yet. Kind of like Fawn Hall, you know, leave no tracks, shred history as I go.
Where'd you get that thing?
Well, got to promote my business somehow. So is, Gus still around?
Yeah, why not? He's got no reason to leave.
See him?
Sure, I see him.
You know, he's a terrible writer. I keep sending him cards, but he never writes back. Sent you cards, too.
Since when?
Since Nurse Ratchet kept hanging up on me. Didn't you get my card?
You must have forgot the zip.
Doesn't your mother,
I used the money for something else.
not for,
What, drugs? No. Most of the kids in school are doing them, but I don't know. I said FTS to that.
FTS?
Fuck that shit. Look, I got a jet for the sun sets.
Hey, we just got started. Come on. Oh, Jesus H. Christ. Wait here. I'll be right back.
I'll speak.
Hey, hi. What are you looking for? It's all hands on here. I sure like that. Well, you know, I got a jacket for you. Wait a minute. Now, why don't you try this on? You know, when I was in Denver, I ran into the King of Spain. He bought one of these. They're fabulous.
Ooh, how much?
That's, goes for 30.
Well, well, well. Return of Ms. Bojangles. Must have gotten my letter. Should I consider this visit an honor or forbidden fruit not to be eaten?
Come on, Gus. I've missed you.
Yeah.
I have.
Call would have been nicer
I did call.
in the 15th century.
You could have written me.
Where? Some post office box somewhere hadn't been checked for months?
You're not going to forgive me, are you?
What's to forgive? What happened here? Enough to drive anyone out of town.
I meant you and me.
Oh, far out. I thought you came here to visit your nephew. Your brother hadn't asked you to. Might have been another 6 years.
Gus, how about some inside info on Dylan?
What are you asking me for?
Well, because he said he sees you.
Sure. I wasn't going to cut all ties just because Auntie Jazz decided to leave town.
That was kind of you, Gus.
No, Jazz, I didn't do it for you. You'd have to go through a lot of nephews to find another one like him. All the other adults in his life kicking him around, he needs one as a friend.
Well, what was he doing on that highway? Getting away from Gloria?
Maybe to see that girl. I don't know.
What girl?
He met a girl last summer. She was vacationing here with her parents. Goes to a fine art school upstate. He applied.
Well, did he get in?
Hey, I only work here, babe.
Gus, there hasn't really been anyone else since you.
Oh, come on. You trying to tell me that you've been celibate ever since we saw each other?
You could have come with me.
I live here. You're the one that wanted to go away and be a success. Maybe Ms. Magazine will do an article on you. Oh, same old Jazz. Put everyone else on the back burner until she gets hers.
Fine, if no one wants to see me, I'll leave. Everybody's happy.
Nobody's saying that, Jazz.
Yeah, well, I can take a hint.
Sure, go ahead. Pull another Timothy Leary.
I beg your pardon?
Turn on, tune in, drop out.
Oh, I see. I'm selfish because I left Morro Bay to have a career of my own.
That's not the only reason you left. And you didn't have to forget everyone you left behind either.
Well, I didn't forget you. I just wasn't ready to have kids yet.
Okay. Why don't you wait till he comes back?
Comes back from where?
I don't know where he is. What's the rush?
I've got a huge shipment of leather goods coming into San Francisco tomorrow. I've got a meeting to sign a deal with my partner Fritz and the distributor. That's what's up.
Push it back.
I can't.
You mean you won't?
Sure. For what? A nephew who's practically forgotten me?
He hasn't forgotten you. He talks about you all the time. But every time he comes over, he asks about you. He's almost given up seeing you again. You're the one that's forgotten, Jazz.
Hello? Just groovy. How about yourself? Yeah, I called about the show at the gallery in Santa Barbara. Got some pieces finally. I think Howard Sue was big. Yeah, next week. Hold on.
Oh, my darling, you are lost and gone forever. Oh, my darling. lemon. A while back. Helps me relax.
What are you doing? Making a green dress for your lady friend here?
No dresses. Curtains and placemats only.
What is that?
What?
Coming from the rock.
I'll be damned. Yeah, I probably thought it was too late to hitch.
Dylan?
Sometimes he goes over there and he wants to be alone.
He still plays the harmonica?
Yep. Same one you gave him when he was a kid.
It's pretty chilly tonight. Take him a blanket.
I can't.
Come on, Jazz, it's only a place. Dylan got over it. You better too.
What do you say? Let's wake him up with a surprise like we used to. Or are you still going to take off to Frisco?
I didn't say that.
Well, then?
No, let's let him sleep. I've got a better idea.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Sexy. Sit down. Where'd you get those?
Girl gave them to me.
A girl, he says. I bet you have to beat them off with a stick.
How'd you know I was here?
We heard you playing last night.
Well, my birthday's not till tomorrow.
Well, better to get a jump on things, I always say.
I'd rather you didn't do that.
Yeah, well, can't be helped. Tried the gum, the filters, all that.
You tried a nicotine spray?
Here's some more water.
This one's from Gus, and the big one's from me.
You didn't have to.
Come on. 18's the big one. You're a free man now, master of your fate. I mean, we should announce it to the world with blaring trumpets, but hey, 7-Eleven can't carry everything.
Come on, Dylan, open it up. I've worked all night to wrap the damn thing.
Thanks.
Well, clumsy. From leather by Jasmine.
Wow. Nice. Thanks, AJ.
Jazz?
Aunt Jay! Aunt Jay! What is it? Aunt Jay, it's okay.
You all right, Jazz? I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
And Jay, you weren't to blame, you know. I just went out in the water too far that day.
Yeah, well, I should have watched you more closely.
So what? I'm still here. I didn't drown. And when you just left town...
I told you. I tried to call. I wrote.
Look. Please stay. I'm sorry about yesterday. I'd been in a big fight with Mom, and then you came by, and I was going someplace.
Then you better get going.
No, it's okay. I can stay another day. We could catch up. We could have some fun. If you could reschedule your meeting.
What about your mother?
She won't be a problem. I'll see to that.
All right, take 999. Hi, welcome to Film.
Welcome to Filmworks.
Hi, I'm Elrico Richardson.
And I'm Eric James.
And tonight we're going to do some brand new spanking format.
We had to get on.
Entertainment.
And if you like our our show, you like our format, and you want to submit something, send us your work. We'll be glad to see it. And get out of here. We got another movie to make. Later.
Stay tuned.
Peace.
Peace. We're out of here.
Glory, he didn't mean to stay out all night without calling.
I don't care. Look, you know the rules about living here, Dylan.
You should show some respect for your... Then you go live off someone your own age. Oh, yeah? Yeah. Hey!
If you plan on living here, I suggest you go upstairs right now.
Oh, you're a hell of a one to tell me how to act. You're gonna need a fucking revolving door at the rate you're going.
How dare you!
Look at yourself! Look what drove Dad away! That's it. I'm getting out of here and going to school whether you like it or not.
You do that and you can pay for every bit of it yourself.
I will. I will. And I'll be sure and write you and let you know how it is to be out of this place.
Stop it! Dylan. Dylan. Apologize to your mother and go inside.
What?
You heard me.
Whose side are you on, anyway?
Listen, don't be a fool. Curb your temper and go inside. Gus and I will think of something.
Yeah. Yeah, sure you will.
Fritz, I know what I said, but I need another day. Can't you give me until noon tomorrow? Listen, buddy, if it weren't for me, you'd still be snorting coke on Wall Street. Fine. What do you call this? Penetration by man number 1?
Life force.
Why does he need the money, Gus?
Because school isn't free.
Well, doesn't it start soon?
Labor Day is next week.
What about parental permission?
18, doesn't need it. No, Chaz. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, Jazz. I've learned. Every time you try to rope a wild horse, it only breaks free again.
MJ said she left a package for me. Where is it?
Oh, it must be on my bureau.
She said she left it in my room. Look, stop taking my things, okay?
You don't believe in banks or what?
My nest egg, all 12 thou. This and the money from the shipment is the down payment on my house.
Oh?
What?
Well, nothing. Putting down roots is good.
I've worked hard enough.
Sure. And you deserve it. Well, who are you going to live in this house with? Coming.
What are you doing here?
I convinced her to let me go out.
You didn't.
Yep. She'd get a kick out of DK's, don't you think?
That's a bar, Dylan.
So?
So they serve liquor there.
So? They probably have girls there, too.
He's underage.
Want to bet?
Right. I should have known you'd sneak over to Gus's at night, like when you were little.
Yeah, well, you know how it is with Bob.
What surprises me is how you've taken to that harmonica. You've been taking lessons, or what?
Nah. I pick up some things from, local musicians. But mostly I just sit in my room and improvise to records.
Get out.
Well, isn't that how you make your leather stuff? On your own?
Well, that's what I used to do. Now I have people who make it and design for me. And just you wait. I'm going to have every American man, woman, and child in leather by the year 2000.
I got a drink over here or what?
Hey, where you been?
I was talking to the manager about who might be playing tonight.
Well, you're just in time for a toast. To a budding future.
To a successful career.
Success.
Now, tell me some more about this art school.
She asked.
Well, it's a great place, Aunt Jenny. The concentration there is on music. Though you take regular college classes, too. But they have jazz and folk and blues stars coming in giving one-on-one sessions and seminars. And last year, a couple of kids even got record deals as soon as they graduated.
So what's your mother's problem?
Well, she thinks it's too much money. And that music isn't a stable career.
Yet you were on your way anyway.
Well, yeah, to meet the enrollment deadline by day after tomorrow.
How are you going to pay for it?
Well, I tried for one of their scholarships. Now my only option is a student loan.
What if you don't get it?
I don't know. I know I'm not putting up with Mom and her boyfriends anymore.
Well, here we are at DK's for our second set tonight. The manager says we have a birthday boy in the house. Says he can add a new dimension to our band. Sounds to me like his mouth's got him into something his behind's got to get him out of. Dylan, get him up here, man. Don't be shy. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, help me get him up here. Okay. Let her hop, son.
Play it, Dylan.
3, 4.
Told you snuck out at night.
Oh, how did he get in here?
Yes. Hey, Bud, where's the manager?
Now, wait a minute.
You're looking at him.
You see that kid up on stage?
Cut.
I want your ID.
Oh, man.
Had to blow the whistle, didn't you? I didn't blow the whistle. Oh, excuse me. Your appendage did.
What do you call that big moose behind you?
Hey,
He was having a good time, expressing himself.
And I suppose you're encouraging that again, the creative flair.
What is your problem anyway?
Jazz,
You
they're not
flunked
worth
finger
it.
painting in kindergarten? He's always been creative. It has always been there.
I've always been there. Where were you? I told you I didn't want you back here. He's my kid. Stop using him. You want to tell me how to be a good mother? Well, go out and have one of your own.
Hey. Look at it this way, huh? It's just one less mouth to feed. Aunt Jay, hold up.
You knew this. Nothing but hassles coming back here.
I'm speaking to you.
How about giving me some space?
How about I was just talking this out here?
There is nothing to talk out.
I'm not talking about Mom. I'm talking about how I see things.
Listen, this is not your problem. You are not the problem.
Then what are you running away from me for?
I'm not running from anything.
You are too. You're taking off now like before. All because some little kid got carried away in the ocean and almost drowned. Well, stop using that as an excuse.
Hey,
I prefer you didn't.
I take the fifth.
Well, you're clogging my air.
What the hell are you doing?
If you can't fulfill a little request like that, then you can take your boots and your car and shove them up your ass for the next 6 years.
Oh, that's a pretty tall order.
The boots or the car?
Either one.
Give me that. Dad smoked like a goddamn chimney. And he wouldn't quit when I asked him to either. So if you want lung cancer, fine. You know, all my life, people I've cared about have either been leaving or dying. So don't let me hold you up, Aunt Jay. Okay? I thought we were starting to get close again.
I tried to stay close.
I know you tried. And she hid the postcards.
What?
Yeah. Every one of them. I found out earlier tonight. But you know, Aunt Jay, sometimes postcards just aren't enough.
Dylan, I want to talk to you about the school.
That's okay, Aunt Jay. I've got to learn to take care of myself.
Let him go, Chaz. I got this phone for your car. It's a better way to stay in touch than a P.O. box. That your house?
Yeah. You think you'd take it?
You mean for tuition? It depends on how you approach him.
Aunt Jay, I can do this on my own.
But it's just to get you started. Cover your first year. Then you could work. I could co-sign for loans. Maybe you'll get that scholarship.
What about your house?
Well, now you're going to tell me how to spend my money? Look, I'll be at Gus's until tomorrow morning. And if your answer is yes, we're going to have to get moving and meet that deadline. To get there in person and hand them that check. Think about it.
I got you some nicotine spray. Hello? Yeah? Chaz?
What's up?
It's not that I'm not grateful, Aunt Jay. Because I am. It's just that... But now we're back to square one. You're out there somewhere, and I'm somewhere else.
Dylan, restless is the way I am. But now that you're on your own, you're an easier target for unannounced visits. Maybe some weekend adventures. And when business keeps me away, well, Gus came up with a great way for us to keep in touch.
What about Gus and you?
Well, I guess I'll just have to put Morro Bay in as a regular pit stop. Won't I?
back laughter and tears. Let go, the music cried. It's you I want, not your souvenirs. Oh, just you, not your souvenirs.
Everybody, we're back with Filmworks and back with Andrew Bacalar. And I wanted to ask you, well, we just saw the second half of your film Souvenirs. I thought it was great. Wanted to ask you, how do you feel that his aunt, you know, we talked a little bit about Dylan before, but how do you think that she was affected by actually coming back into his life? I mean, do you think that she was obviously positively affected, but in what way?
Well, I think that Jasmine's story is really a story which a lot of women who have made the choice to leave their families, maybe their old friends, or their old boyfriends, and go and have a career, maybe that entails moving away. Maybe that means taking on a job where they have to work 20 hours or 40 hours or 100 hours a week, and they're involved in a whole other life. And in order to be successful in the same way that men are successful, they need to work very hard. And that can mean forgetting a lot of people and forgetting...
Successful financially,
Right, successful in terms of a career, and reaching a certain point, either financially or in terms of prestige, in terms of power, whatever it is you're going after, you can be a successful social worker, right?
Right. A successful person, child of God, or whatever. Yeah.
She has made that choice, and every choice involves consequences and sacrifice. And what she sacrifices, in a sense, her people, is her family. And by coming back, she has to choose between everything that she's worked for, or one thing in the movie which is symbolic of what she's worked for, and then this boy who needs her, and needs her guidance, needs her love, needs her ears to listen to his problems, and then needs concrete help. And I think this is the choice that many women face. I say women because 30 years ago, not as many women were going out into the workforce. And
certainly not traveling around the country in a VW all by themselves.
All right, well, yeah, she's kind of, she's like a flower child, you know, she's kind of groovy, she's kind of cool.
And we liked it, we did. We liked
it. You know, back in the, 30 years ago, she might have been in Haight-Ashbury, hanging out with her, with her old man, and experiencing the university life. And now she's gone out and she's on a different track.
Right.
So she's got that freedom.
Okay. So Andrew, what kind of projects can we be looking forward to seeing you do in the future?
I think two kinds of projects. One are the action-oriented movies, action-oriented dramas that have a social political edge, much like what Oliver Stone does, though I'm concerned about exploring issues of youth at risk, kids on the streets. And then the other mask I wear is comedy, and by comedy, very off-the-wall comedy. I like Blake Edwards, I like John Cleese. I think I've got a few projects in development that have the feeling of A Fish Called Wanda, very kind of absurd pun, there are lots of puns, and that comedies are like a romp.
Sounds great. Okay, we'll look forward to them.
Oh, thanks.
Good luck to you. And thanks for joining us on Filmworks. I'm Tracy Freeman, and we'll see you next time.
You shared has lived in my heart for so long, and now you're a man, and it's time to decide which road you plan to travel on. Followed to a place that brought back laughter and tears. Let go, the music cried. It's you I want, not your souvenirs. Oh, just you, not your souvenirs.
Rush, and welcome to Filmwork.
Right.